Hello, YouTubers. How are you doing today? It's a fine day to be outside. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a little hash session about trap shooting and skeet and sporting clays. And I'm going to talk with my brother today. So come on in, Gene. We're going to have a little hash session today.
Well, brother, what do you say? How's it going today?
Oh, not too bad. How's yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Nice day today to sit down in the sun and enjoy the day.
I suppose you were wanting to go out today shooting. Did you do anything this morning?
We didn't this morning, but usually there's certain days out of the week we try to hit the clubs as much as we can. I try to go out and get into the practice sessions more than I do the competition sessions because I'm not really into the competition. So I just more or less shoot for fun. I started way back when I was shooting trap many years ago. When I was a lot younger, probably 35, 40 years ago, I shot a lot of trap. Never shot too much skeet, but I did a lot of trap. And I got away from it for many years, probably a good 35, almost 40 years. My gun sat and didn't do much of it anymore.
Well, you used to have a prize gun at one time, Perazzi or something like that?
Yeah, I had a Perazzi shotgun that I used for trap that I did quite well with at the time. I was getting some pretty good scores in trap. I got the knack of it, I guess you would say. And then many years went by that I had no partners to shoot with anymore, so I kind of got away from it. Didn't do much shooting anymore in trap. Put the gun aside, and it collected a lot of dust over the years. But then all of a sudden, my son came along, and he wanted to get involved with doing some clay shooting, which I never heard of. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about clay shooting, and so we bought a couple of guns over and unders at the time because I only had a single shot. And in order to shoot some of the sports, you have to shoot doubles. So we got some inexpensive over and unders to start out when we thought we'd venture into it a little bit and see what it's all about.
Now, what is sporting clays? A lot of our viewers don't even know what sporting clays is.
Well, it's a different sporting game in clay shooting. It's still shooting at clay targets, but it's a whole different layout and setup. Trap is pretty much basic. You sit around in front of a trap house and you shoot usually a 25 round at 16 yards at different angles at the bird, but the bird itself is coming out usually at the same pitch and distance. In sporting clays, it's where you go to different spots in a course. It could be below a hill, it could be above a hill, it could be in a valley, and it can be just in a plain site of plain, but they vary as far as the targets are coming out. The traps can be changed, I guess, any way they want to aim them. So you might go to station one and have a high flyer straight up in the air.
Oh, I've been one time. I seen one bird go straight up. I don't even know how he hit it.
Yeah, they can be very difficult, some of those shots, because they try to stimulate in sporting clays to bird shooting, such as geese, duck, pheasants.
Well, it's supposed to help you on hunting skills, right?
Well, it sure does. If you can master the sporting clay targets, it'll improve your field shooting very, very, probably very impressively as time goes on if you do it a lot.
Yeah.
I found out when I first started out that from trap it was much more difficult to hit the birds.
What was your first score when you first did it?
Well, when we first started doing it, my son and I got into it and just for fun, basically, and see what it was all going to be about. And I think the first time I went through the course, it's usually 50 birds.
Yeah.
And you have two kinds of setups. They shoot what's called a report pair, which is you shoot at the first target, and as soon as the gun goes bang, the second target is released from a different spot. So
now that's done by the guy that's your partner. He actually hits the
well, it's done by either by a timer that you can shoot yourself with, if you set the timer so with a delay, or you can have a partner that can push the button and it'll say report pair or true pair.
Right.
The true pair is when you shoot at both targets. Well, I shouldn't say shoot at both targets, but it's when both targets come out at the same identical time the button is pushed. So you have to swing at the first shot and then swing over and get the second shot. And they could be at various different angles at various different approaches.
No, they give you a map though. They tell you which.
Not all the time. Not all the time. Okay. Most clubs have, for practice, you may get a design on a board sometimes in front of you that'll say what angle they're coming at, but not all the time. There's some clubs absolutely give you no hint at all where they're coming from unless you pull the button, or push the button I should say, the first time and see where the bird's coming from, and then push the second button to see where the bird's coming from, and then you know where to look.
Okay.
But if that doesn't happen, it's a surprise. You don't know. And that's where the difficulty comes in.
Right.
The difficulty between sporting clays versus shooting trap is trap, you know where the bird's going to be coming from.
Right.
It's coming from that house, but you always know it's going to come out at some given angle, but it's always going to be at the same speed and the same pitch and height. Whereas the sporting clays will come out at various speeds, slow, fast, very high, or very low. And usually in some cases the trap you don't even get to see where it's hiding. It can be hiding behind a tree or behind a bush, or it might be behind you.
Well, a trick, folks, is when you're going out with, if you happen to have the opportunity to go out and go at a guy like this, you take a peek and you can see the thrower where it's at a lot of times, and you can kind of get an idea where it's going to come out at. And
well, a good thing about sporting clays is if you can see the trap layout and you know where the trap is for each station, it gives you somewhat of an advantage to be able to start out with, you know, the first bird's going to come out of the left trap, let's say, or the right trap, and you get to see the trap itself, but you don't know if it's going to be a low flyer, high flyer, or extremely high flyer,
right,
or how fast it's going to be coming, or it could be a crosser. And but you're ready for it because you now see the trap, so you know approximately that's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And then if you can see both traps for the second shot, you know where you have to swing over for the second shot for the second bird when it is presented to you. If you're shooting a true pair, you almost would have an advantage, of course, if you could see both traps, the left trap and the right trap, and you know that you're going to get a true pair. You're going to get a bird coming from both of those traps at the same time. And you're kind of going to be ready for it because you know that the left bird is that trap and the right bird is that trap.
Right.
But not all the time is that the situation. So, yeah, sporting clays is a whole different game than trap or skeet. It's more challenging and a lot more fun, I think. You can get frustrated very easily by misses. The first time we shot it, our scores were very low. I think I've seen people that never shot it before that tried it and they got as low as maybe 10 birds out of 50.
Well, you still didn't answer my question before. What was your first score?
My first score, I think, was around 18.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's if I remember right, I broke 18 birds the first time I tried it.
That's out of 50 now, right?
That's out of 50.
Yeah.
As we got used to the game, we got better as time went by, and we thought that when we first started, if we could hit 50% of our birds, we were doing pretty good. So that would be 25 birds out of 50. I think it took me about 3 or 4 tries of the same course events that I went to, I think it was maybe the fourth or the fifth time, I got into the 20s.
Wow.
And as time went by and you shoot it enough, you get better.
Yeah.
My best score that I ever shot in the sporting clay event was probably, I think, a 43 or a 44. I'm not real positive, but it was one of those. And the best I shot at 5-stand, which is another game that is a sporting clay event, but it's quite different than the normal sporting clays. It's done a little bit different. I shot a 47 out of 50.
Really good.
But that is a whole different game than what we're talking about. Again, it's called 5-stand, which is kind of similar, but you know where all the traps are in your surrounding areas, and it's all done out of a building that's usually about the size of a chicken coop. That you have 5 positions that you stand in, and you shoot. I'm trying to think now. I think it's 10 shots from each stand in there. So you would pass from station 1, you'd move over a station until you get all 5 stations shot.
Well, that's a whole different sport.
That's a different sport that's become quite popular also with sporting clays. It's a kind of a similar sport to sporting clays, but it's somewhat different. I mean, you could explain the rules a little bit different how it works. You do get true pairs, and you get report pairs.
Okay.
Same as you would get on sporting clays. The only difference is you don't walk from station to station to look for your sporting clays. In many courses, you may walk from station 1 to station 12. It could be a half a mile walk to, in some cases, 14 or 16 stations. Could be very close to a mile walk from station 1 to the last station. Whereas in 5-stand, you are walking no more than about 50 feet from station 1 by the time you get to station 5. Yeah. So it's just a small jump from station to station. But you get a lot of birds that come out of, instead of 2 traps, the birds would come out of 5 traps. So you'd have, no, I take it back, there's 8 traps.
8 stations. There's 8 different stations.
Well, not 8 stations.
Or 8 different positions.
8 traps, but there would be 5 stations that you'd shoot from.
Okay.
So your station is put in front of you on 5-stand. You would have your numbers from your first pair that's going to come out. It'll tell you on a card in front of your station which traps they're going to be.
Okay.
So you may have a report pair that's going to be 1 and 8. That means that trap 1 is going to throw a bird and trap 8 is going to throw a bird.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then the next 2 shots would be 4 and 5. So you'd get a 4 bird and a 5 bird. But all these 8 stations have many different possibilities. But you shoot the whole course on those 8 traps. So when you go from one station to the next station, once you get familiar with trap 8, you know what kind of bird's coming out of trap 8, and you pretty much know what's coming out of trap 1 through 8. So if you get it kind of in your head where these birds are going to come from on the 8 traps that are set up. Now this is strictly 5-stand we're talking about.
Oh, 5-stand now you're talking about.
Yeah, this is strictly 5-stand.
We're going to confuse our viewers a little bit here now.
Yeah, but it's a whole different game.
Okay.
I was just trying to explain a little bit how the difference is in 5-stand versus sporting clays. Mm-hmm. So 5-stand is a whole different challenge, but it's similar.
Yeah, okay.
It's similar.
Gotcha. Now, what about, we're going to go back to sporting clays now. What about, they call it the rabbit. Now, they actually put a rabbit and let them run out, or they use how can you throw a clay bird out as a rabbit.
Well, they call it a rabbit because they stimulate a rabbit running across the ground with a specially designed clay bird.
Well, how do they do that without breaking?
Well, the bird or the clay bird that is, or they call it a bird, or it's a cylinder. There's different size cylinders that they use for different events. There's, I think, like 4 or maybe 5 different size clay birds. And the standard one, I forget what the exact size is, but it's probably about a 4-inch bird or something like that, a circle round bird. It's about the size of, I'm going to say a coffee cup.
Oh, okay. So it's smaller in size.
Yeah, and then they go downwards from there. There's a small bird that goes down quite a bit smaller. It's about the size of maybe the bottom of that bottle there. And by being smaller, it's stiffer and can be thrown faster.
And they can bounce across the ground?
No, that's not the rabbit. The rabbit is a large bird, but it's designed different. When they mold it, it's made out of just nothing more than a flat disc that is thicker with the clay that they make the molded with, so it can take more impact and bouncing on the ground when it's thrown from the trap. And they actually can take one of those birds and skip it and hop it on the ground. If it hits objects, it can jump over objects without breaking. So when you shoot at it, you want to make sure you hit it pretty hard, that you get enough pellets to break it, because if you just get a little dust off of it, it still don't count as a break.
Yeah, I seen you guys try to shoot those, and there's probably a lot of pellets hitting them, and they're still not breaking.
If you hit them, generally they're not that far of a shot. And now in some competition shoots, registered shoots, you may get a rabbit that's 35, 40 yards out. Much more difficult than when you shoot some of these easier courses that are designed for the beginners. And they want to get those courses going a lot for beginners and women and children that never shot the sport before. And what they like to do is get them so that the targets are fairly easy to hit without you getting frustrated, going home and say, I'm never coming back to shoot that sport again. Yeah. So they make it so that the beginners in some of these sports or clubs that you go to, they have courses. Some of them have as many as 4 courses. And they usually have them identified by the blue, yellow, red, and orange or whatever course, and the color designates how much of a difficulty the course may be for the person that's going to shoot that course, which is nice because they want to get and it's surprising because sporting clays, in my opinion, is something I've never seen before in shotgun shooting. Is all ages, a lot of all ages. You see a lot of young kids trying it. You see a lot of women trying it, and you see a lot of elderly people, women and men, trying that type of shooting. And what's nice about it, it's good exercise. You get to walk. If you want to, you can bring a golf cart in there and drive from spot to spot. But it becomes very good exercise for people, and at the same time, it's an enjoyable sport, and it can be a lot of fun, you know. And I'm surprisingly seeing a lot of people. I mean, the age that I'm at is fascinating to see a lot of co-shooters out there that are in my age group shooting this sport, which makes me feel good because you get to talk to a lot of these people. They're very friendly. It's a type of sport, I think, that brings a lot of people out, and you get to meet a lot of fascinating people. And you don't have to have a lot of expensive guns to shoot it or anything like that. I've seen people out there with $35 shotguns that shoot it and they break targets. And I also see people out there with many thousands of dollars spent on shotguns that miss targets just as easy as if they had a not so expensive shotgun. So expensive shotguns a lot is more of prestige and showing off, maybe. I don't know what you want to call it.
Well, what kind of gun do you shoot?
Well, I started out with a TriStar over and under that was a beginner's, kind of a beginner entry-level type shotgun for the average amount of shooting you would do in a sport like this, where you would go maybe once a week or a couple times a month to shoot 50 rounds. And I just bought that to see how I would like the sport. Well, I got addicted right away to the sport, and I liked it quite well. And as I was shooting the sport, I felt I needed a gun that would fit me better. So I bought a gun that I was able to adjust the fit. And you can buy, there's guns out there you can buy that have an adjustable, what we call adjustable comb, that if you have to tweak it a little bit for where you want it to shoot, you can raise the comb, lower the comb. You can push the comb to the left and to the right to adjust to your face, which is an advantage to some people that may need some adjustment on their gun when they buy it.
Sure. Yeah.
So I chose to go that route. You don't have to go that route. If you get a good gun fitter, they can fit you properly with a proper gun that will fit you without having adjustable stock, but you may have to have the stock altered somewhat depending upon your size and height and length of reach, your arm length. And you can many times buy one that's very close to what you need right off the shelf, but if you need adjustment, it's a matter of taking it to a gunsmith, and he'll adjust the stock either by cutting a piece off the back a little bit and adjusting the recoil pad to where it has to be, and you're all set to go.
Well, let me stop just for a minute. When I went with him, when he first got into it, I thought it was crazy when he was buying all these fancy glasses and stuff. He had these glasses on, and they had a little piece of Scotch tape on it, and I says, you need to take that stupid tape off of the left eye there. What do you got to have that on there for? Explain what that's all about.
Well, that's because that a lot of people that buy a right-handed shotgun that have maybe done everything right-handed in their life might have a left dominant eye when they bring the gun up to shoot. And what that means is if you bring the shotgun up to your shoulder to point it to shoot, they recommend that you keep both eyes open because a shotgun does not have sights like a rifle.
Right.
So if you take a shotgun and you bring it up to your shoulder and you keep both eyes open and you're right dominant and you're shooting left-handed or vice versa, you may have trouble seeing two barrels and two ribs on your gun because of the dominance of your eye by being not able to open both eyes and see the straight line of sight down your barrel. Now some people have what they call neutral dominance. If you have neutral dominance, you can shoot many cases either left or right, and you don't have a dominant eye. You wind up with both eyes are neutral to each other, they're both equal.
Yeah.
So you wind up that you could shoot left or right-handed and you would not have an issue. But if you have a exclusive left or right dominant eye, they recommend shooting your shotgun with that dominant eye. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people that shoot a baseball or throw a baseball or bat right-handed, they're going to most likely pick up a shotgun that's going to be right-handed to them, and they're going to shoulder it right-handed because everything they do is right-handed, but their eye might be left dominant. So how do you correct that? Well, that's where the tape comes in.
Yep.
If you take and you're a right-handed shooter and you want to correct that vision so that you don't have to change to a different arm to shoot your gun, you keep shooting right-handed, but what you do is you take a piece of tape and you block part of your vision with a transparent piece of tape, and you slightly obstruct your vision from your opposite eye. And by doing that, it makes your dominant eye, it fools the dominant eye, and it corrects the dominance of your eye so that when you look down the barrel now, you will see one sight plane.
Yeah, he's right about that, because 2 years ago, when I picked up his gun, and you can find that video. It's our trap shooting on New Year's Day or Christmas Day. I forget what it was. It's one of my videos, and we're just having fun that day trying out one of our trap throwers that we were using. And he asked me if I see two barrels or one, and I says I'm doing just fine. I can see the beads, no problem. And I told him he's crazy. I don't know where you're getting that double barrel stuff, you know. But then here recently, I started seeing two barrels. So here now I got to use his glasses to be able to see the barrel properly. So he's telling the truth. I mean, it's
okay. The only thing you
problem.
can do is if that all of a sudden starts to happen to you, is it's not a complicated thing to do. Just you can a lot of people. There's some people that squint. They just plain squint one eye.
So could you shoot with one eye then?
Yes, if you want to. Not saying it's the right thing to do. The reason that they want you to shoot with both eyes open is because your peripheral vision brings in more detail from left and right,
yeah, that's
when
right.
you're looking for the bird.
Yeah, because you got two birds you're trying to find in the sky. You know, you're going all over. You just gotta try to find those birds.
Well, the biggest thing with both eyes open is it gives you the widest peripheral
Right.
vision of both eyes. So you get to see left and right as wide as you possibly can while you're looking down the barrel. If you blot one eye, which a lot of people have done that, I've seen people they'll actually take and blot the one lens completely out, or you could just close that eye and just look down the barrel like you normally would, and a lot of shooters do shoot that way. They squint the one eye, or they'll close one eye completely and use their non-dominant eye to look down the barrel, and it becomes perfectly clear by doing that.
So I'm thinking now, maybe 2 years ago when I shot in our nephew's yard that day, maybe I did close that left eye
without realizing it. A lot of people squint and they're not realizing they are squinting.
Yeah.
Sometimes what can happen, the squint that you do, if you don't close your eye all the way, the slight squint will do almost the same thing as what the tape is doing. It causes the confusion from your non-dominant eye to correct your dominant eye.
Yeah.
And the only difference is by squinting, sometimes it can affect, I don't know exactly how to explain it, it can affect your well, it's going to perfect your peripheral for sure, but what you see is going to be less of the target. But then again, there's some people that are good shooters today. In fact, there's even some professional shooters I've watched and read about, and they are squinters. They don't necessarily
He taught himself.
Yeah, there are very professional shooters that don't always shoot with their dominant eye.
Yeah.
And I can't name off any just off the top of my head because I can't remember names that well, but I have
It
watched.
comes with age.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. But I'll tell you one thing. I was surprised because I started watching some of the competition shooting in sporting clays, and there's also some other sports in sporting. That's why they call it sporting clays, because there are some other sports in sporting clays that are done differently than what we do on the regular sporting clay course. And they call them some different names, but it's basically done in the same fashion as we say sporting clays are done. And when I watched some of these videos, I was surprised to, when they got to talking about different things about the equipment and eyeglasses like we're talking about here right now, and so forth, that there are some people that are professional shooters that prefer to shoot with their non-dominant eye because they've always been right-handed with everything they've done.
Sure.
And they obviously broke themselves in to shoot with a non-dominant eye. And when they do that, they're most likely going to have to be a squinter, or they're going to have to use a spot or something to confuse the opposite eye.
Wow.
But that's pretty much how you would correct that when it comes to glasses. And everybody out there, and that's kind of a rule today, they won't let you shoot on the range unless you got eyewear on.
Yeah, that's a
You
must.
pretty much have to.
You're
have
doing it
that.
for your own good. I mean, anything can happen.
Ear protection and eyewear is the important thing for
Even
shooting.
if you're just there to help the shooter, you're squeezing the trigger, or the release of the trap. You got to have eyewear and protection for your ears. Otherwise, the patrolman goes by, he's gonna throw you out. So
Yeah, and most clubs today, if they notice that you're shooting with no eyewear on, even if you don't, you can use your normal. If you wear glasses, you can wear those. I mean, they won't penalize you for using your eyeglasses.
Right.
But if you have absolutely no glasses at all on, and a good rule of thumb is many pairs of eyeglasses today are limited to how much impact they could take if something went wrong.
Right.
But yet most eyeglasses are shatterproof, so the way they're making them today anyway. Most of them are made out of plastic of some sort that are shatterproof or whatever. Or you may work at a job where your job requires a special pair of glasses for the job you do, so you should be okay in most cases with eyeglasses. The only difference between shooters wear is most shooters wear will cover more of your eye.
Right.
So it gives you more of a protection around the eye. And so I prefer to shoot shooter's glasses for the simple reason you have the ability to change lenses to different colors depending on the sun brightness and the cloudy days that you might be shooting in. If you shoot a cloudy day, you may want to use a brighter lens, which would be a yellow or a light pink or something like that, whereas on a bright day, you may want to shoot a darker lens.
Hey, we got to do that in other videos.
Yeah, there's so many topics when it comes to this sport that basically, we should break it down and probably talk more about each one of these events as a special topic.
Yeah, I think we're going to do that, folks. We're gonna probably cut this one down now, cut it to the end here. But there's one thing I'd like to see if Gene knows the answers to this. We're in the south part of Wisconsin, and maybe a lot of you guys that are watching my channel are into sporting clays and don't know where a lot of these places are. Can you tell the folks where some of these spots are? You know, you got McMiller, right?
Well, around our area here,
Well, we're not making any money on this for sending these guys out there, but at least they
well,
would get an idea.
it's a lot of people don't realize where these courses really are, and I've been very fortunate to where I live because I have several courses that are within reasonable driving distance for me. There's some people that live in a much farther away places where there's not as many opportunities. In southern part of Wisconsin here down by Elkhorn, Lake Geneva, and the Delavan area, we got some pretty good close by ones. There's one in Eagle, which is not too far from Elkhorn, about a 15-mile drive, which is a nice course run by the state of Wisconsin. There is also one in Warren Valley, which is just a little bit further from Eagle towards Waukesha. And then, of course, there's the big one in Waukesha, which is the furthest for me to drive, but it's still within about a 35 mile distance from my house. And then there's one, it's called in Boxhorn in Muskego Beach, which is also in the Waukesha area.
That's a good one. I like that.
Now
one.
that's most of them all in that direction. Now there's a couple of them that go towards Janesville. There's one over in Janesville that is not too far out, but for me,
That's all 14, right?
yes, it is, and it gets you from my house a little far for me to go, but it's still within reasonable driving distance for a variety. And I like the idea of going from one club to another for variety because you have every club has different layouts, different targets to shoot at, different opportunities for presentation of the birds. You have some clubs have a lot of different background, like you might be shooting in the woods more than you would in the open. Other clubs are a little more in the open, not too much woods. There are some clubs you may be shooting across the pond or water or across some berms, we call them berms, which are actually hills that were either made manually for the course, or they could be natural hills that were set up on the course. So by able to go to different courses from one to another gives you variety, and that's kind of nice. I enjoy that.
And there's a couple clubs that actually let you fire out two of them to see where they're coming out of first, right?
Generally, a lot of the clubs are set up where it depends upon the fees you pay. I think in most cases, if you pay some higher fees, usually you're allowed to see a demo bird that comes out of each trap at each station, but that's just one bird. And then once you see it, the rest of the guys shooting have to be happy with what they see and shoot from there. So you get that at a lot of clubs that they charge a little bit more, but you get to see that. Now, there are a few clubs that charge for every bird that comes out of the trap. Okay. So what you got to do at those clubs, though, is be careful that you mark down the bad birds that are broke when they come out of the traps, because you don't shoot those. That is a defective bird that came out, so you mark them down. And usually in most clubs, when you tell them you had 5 bad birds or 10 bad birds on the course, they'll give you credit for them.
Right, okay. Okay, folks, we're going to cut this off now, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. In fact, if you've never been to my channel before, hit that subscribe button right at the start of this film. I know you're into it already. Hit the like button if you like it. Make some comments on what you've heard. This guy knows a lot about what's going on here. Been in it for how many years now?
Well, sporting clay's not too long. Probably this is my 4th year. Trap I did quite a bit in my younger days when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And that's my extent of shotgun shooting. It was a big gap in between.
Yeah, big gap. The guns collect a lot of dust. So Yeah, there you have it, folks, and be sure to watch the end screen on the end of this film. We got one on there that's going to be for McMiller. You'll be able to see what sporting clays are all about. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.
Dogs killing each other in there. What's going on?